Welcome to the first official podcast, the first official episode of the Polarizer podcast, powered by Speed Cafe. I'm Benny Bish, your host for today. Two very polarizing characters of the motorsport world. How good's the look? Roland Dane, welcome back to the first official podcast.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
And
let's make it more polarizing.
Yeah. You're free to go, mate. Paul Morris, I am so concerned because we're here at Garage 25, which I'm not sure if you're aware of this. This is the personal collection of Tony Longhurst. I expected you to have a helmet on today, being in Tony Longhurst's garage.
30 years ago, can you believe
Really?
that? But I mean, Tony is still mates, so...
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, 1994, Winton.
It's brilliant vision.
Yeah. You'll probably come running through the door any minute and whack me in the head, but
Was it 30 years ago or 30 kilos ago?
Oh,
both.
Okay.
Yeah.
it's amazing though when you watch that vision and you see the
Don't start with the fat jokes, mate.
Don't worry. People in glass houses.
You're a lot closer than what you were for the last episode, so you need to be careful. But the interesting thing about that whole video, because there's multiple versions of it on YouTube, but all of the comments have got nothing to do with the hit, nothing to do with the actual racing incident. It's all to do with how quickly Tony got out of his race car.
Yeah, he got out pretty quick. Yeah, he did.
Undoing the belts real quick. All right. You guys have been around. You've been to a place that nobody really knows how to pronounce. We're being told it's Taupo, and you think of the icons of a toe and a paw, and that sort of reminds you. But everybody up to this point thought it was Taupo. What changed, Roland?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, when I was in New Zealand at Easter at Wanaka, the name changed.
Right.
So, and I don't know why. Is there some protocol or something?
Greg Russ's fault.
I'm not sure. But
Well, it could be. It could be.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'll call it whatever people wanted me to call it. But I actually wasn't there. I should, just make a disclaimer from the start. I wasn't there, but I was consuming it on TV like a lot of other people. But I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I mean, you tell me. We all know Kiwis, and I've asked some of them, and they've got differing opinions.
Yeah. They're saying, Taupo, my bro.
It was Taupo around town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'll see that where it changed for me was when in Nolte we were talking about going to Taupo, and he goes, oh no, mate, no, it's Taupo. I go, oh really? Like I've never. He goes, yeah, Greg Russ told me. Now Greg obviously lives there, so who's right? We have no idea. Anyway, point being, scorecard, report card. It doesn't. Did they do anything wrong? It sounds like everything was perfect.
It was. The first thing I thought about is how we're going to get everyone in and out of the track, right?
Right.
Probably the best egress, I've seen of any circuit, and started asking why, but they're used to having big events in Taupo. They have a round of the World Triathlon there, so they're used to having a lot of people into town, but there was a completely different road system for the teams and pass holders to get into the track, and another one for the car park for the punters. Easy to get around town. Just good to go somewhere where you wanted. A lot different feeling than somewhere like Newcastle.
Yeah,
so
right.
It was cool to be back in a place where they were embracing the sport.
Okay. You mentioned before, Roland, that you watched from TV. It should be probably said that's actually a little bit of intentional. I mean, you could go, but I'm getting the impression you're sort of trying to get that thing of hearing the heart of the punter.
Well, there's a few reasons. I mean, firstly, that one at Taupo, I was actually in Sepang in Malaysia with a GT Asia round. That was the first thing. Second thing, I'm not sure if my Supercar pass actually works. But also I like watching it from the point of view of the majority of our fans. I mean, the reality is that the majority of the fans don't go to every event. They might go to one or possibly two a year. They're watching most of it on TV. So if you're consuming it the same way that the fans are, then it's probably easier to see it from their point of view of what works, what doesn't work, etc., and how it flows and how the racing is. So I enjoy that as well.
Has it changed your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Well, two things have changed. It is firstly not being at the coalface anymore, right? Because when you're at the coalface, when you're running a team, whether you're a team manager or a team principal, and you're actually doing the racing, you're there to kill people. You're there to win. If you're not there to win, why have you shown up in professional motorsport? So your attitude to everything is very different. When you step away from it, then you see far more of a bigger picture. Now, Paul might try and tell you that he saw the bigger picture when he was racing. He didn't. He was exactly the same. He was right at the coalface and wanted to do what was best for him or his team on the day. The ability to step back from that a bit in between races is definitely there with most people in the paddock. But actually, at a race meeting, you're there to do your job, which is to try and win first and foremost. So stepping back from it does give you a very different perspective on the sport, which I think is important to try and embrace when the sport is making decisions about what the future looks like.
I'd love to unpack that in future episodes. Your changing perspective as a result of being away from the coalface. Talking about perspectives, I saw your socials, dude. Your perspective was from your Airbnb. So you were right up there with Matt Nolte with the hot tub.
Mate, this was better than Nolte's hot tub. So the house I had this thermal hot spring coming straight out of the ground into a cedar hot tub. So
wow,
I did plenty of laps around that hot tub on the weekend.
And a lake. You had a lake view.
Yeah, lake view. Perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get down to the actual race and the event. The most glaring thing, I guess, when you jump on the telly, very, very different track surfaces at different parts of the racetrack. Good thing, bad thing? I'm hearing people say that's actually a really good thing.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I don't think it was done by design. I think it was done to basically economise the resurface, which Quinny's pretty good at making a dollar spread. But gee, it created some good racing, and I think if it was fully resurfaced the track, we wouldn't have had a good product. It really created some variables. So different drivers exploited different parts of the track earlier on, different setup philosophies of what corner you wanted to use. And sure, they all migrated to the same thing by the end of the weekend, right. but there was some different stuff going on. Yeah.
So can you break that down for us, Roland, that whole thing of exploiting different parts of a racetrack?
Well, I mean, what Paul says is absolutely correct about the approach to that particular circuit with different bits of the track resurfaced and different bits that are really pretty old, but not only old, but it's a sort of, I gather it's a volcanic stone and everything, pretty abrasive with quite big gaps in between the stones, a bit like Perth is sometimes when it's been hasn't been resurfaced for a while. So the different grip levels are huge. The difference between the new and the old. When you first look at that circuit, it looks a bit Mickey Mouse, to be honest. Right. All that sort of infield that looks like somebody drew some corners with a crayon or something on a field, and but actually it worked very well. I think because of those different track surfaces, particularly from what I can understand, talking to people post-event, the corner, I think it's turn 11, before you go onto the back straight. And the feedback I had was if that had been resurfaced, for instance, that corner, it would have been a one-line corner. But it wasn't resurfaced, and therefore it wasn't a one-line corner. So you had different ways to skin the cat to get down the straight. So you could tuck under somebody who was taking a wide entry, if you wanted, and multi-line the corner. And if you look at what made, for me, the Grand Prix, for instance, into good racing, was the fact that you could multi-line the corner. Now, that's for a different reason, because of width and the flow of the place. But the same thing was true. You could multi-line the corner, and you had different drivers discovered earlier in the weekend. I think that sequence with new tarmac through, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe 5, 6, 7 or whatever, where you could really use the curbs to dive under the person at the next right-hander. And but on the other hand, then it gave the guy that you just passed an opportunity to come back at you. Yeah. I think that
tarmac had enough grip to catch you.
Yes, yeah,
you could launch off the curb and it'd grab you, but if you tried that somewhere else on the track, you would just move. You slid up the racetrack, so
right, a
little bit like racing on dirt.
Yeah, and it just changes. Did it evolve?
I'm not sure. Paul, do you think it evolved?
I think the curbs rubbered up a bit.
Right.
Yeah, and got a bit of grip, but a lot of that got washed away with the wet race. But I think what really involved was the drivers that were thinking.
Right.
You know, if they were thinking about how they could, you know, especially into that big bowl complex, you can drive in there quite quick because then there's a track surface change, so you got no grip. But it's where's the car going to end up?
Yeah.
So you really had to, a bit like driving through the slick on a speedway. You know, the cushion will grab you.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff was going on.
Yeah.
So you know, you saw a bit of a slide job.
Yeah.
Going on.
It's interesting because the thing I guess that the fans want really is anything that is the opposite of predictability. So the more variables you have, potentially that's more entertainment. So talk about variables, all of a sudden we come to the first race of the weekend, race 7.
Yeah.
It's pouring rain. What was the response? Was like, oh, here we go? Or was like, oh, this is going to be awesome?
Oh, it was going to be awesome, but you definitely didn't want to be on the front row because you had that big white line right in front of the thing. And the other thing that was pretty obvious, that new asphalt was still oxidising a bit. So on the inside line where there's been no traffic, it was quite treacherous.
Right.
If you put a car down in there. So being on pole in the wet was probably not the ideal thing you'd want to be.
I mean, watching it from thousands of kilometres away, the outstanding thing for me on Saturday was all those punters there in the rain. I couldn't believe. I mean, I thought the ducks would be there, but I wasn't sure that so many people would be there. It was unbelievable to have such a big crowd in the pissing rain. I mean, it just showed.
They're used to it.
Yeah, but it showed the enthusiasm of the audience and everything there to sit there for an hour and a half or whatever it was and watch that, plus the support races, etc. as well. It was outstanding.
I think they've all got wet weather gear, mate. Because
where
I was staying, there was Miss World's jogging up and down every morning, and I thought, oh, it's raining this morning, I won't be able to get out and have a bit of a look. And then they're all there, but they've got wet weather gear on. They're still going.
So they're used to it. And but the level of passion, like I remember Chad Nailon saying to me, he said, it's just weird. When you go to New Zealand, I mean, Chad doesn't consider himself any sort of level of celebrity, but he said, mate, it is crazy the amount of autographs that you sign over there. He said there's a hunger and an appetite for the Supercars product in New Zealand that is nowhere in Australia.
Well, they haven't had it for a while either. And they've had incredibly successful drivers over the years.
It's amazing how, to me, the two standout nations in the world for producing more drivers than their population would suggest are Finland and New Zealand, at opposite ends of the globe, and probably both with nippers growing up in driving on the loose or motocrossing on, etc. And they both produce a disproportionate number of drivers, and at a very, very high level.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And we might get a chance later on in today's session to just talk about, what's in the water in New Zealand a little bit later. But let's go back to the start of the race. Big white line, oxidizing of new surface. You don't want to be on pole. And then we saw, like from an entertainment point of view, a start shunt.
Yeah, well, they didn't even get halfway down the front straight before they ran into each other. And to me, that's just the drivers fighting over a bit of road they don't actually need at that point in time. Like the goal's to get to that corner. So they all started squeezing and jockeying and blocking, but why? They need to go and have a look at that and go, why did they all argue over that bit of road at that time? Because they didn't actually need it.
Yeah, I watched it, and I felt, to be honest, I felt sympathy for Cam Waters because he got himself into a good position again, and then it all turned to shit. And I think I don't know if it's the team or him or whatever, placing themselves and him under too much pressure, and whether that affects some of the racing decisions, I don't know. But it just he's going through an incredibly unlucky patch at the moment, really, that he doesn't deserve as a driver. He's a very good driver. Doesn't deserve that in terms of results. Has he got too much pressure around him? I'm not sure. I don't think he's in the right place. I'd love to see him in another team, in another environment, that could bring out the best in him and maybe avoid some of those situations which you saw, on Saturday. How much was attributable to him, I don't know, but it takes two to tango sometimes.
Wind the clock. Sorry, you go.
There's 3 or 4 of them involved in it, really.
Yeah.
So when I looked at it, like Cam reacted to the car that was behind him, he saw it coming and moved up a bit, but to me, that's get to the first corner first. So
Yeah. I'm just a little bit stuck back on what you just said there about his environment and what that means. Wind the clock back. If you were in the position to make him an offer, would that have been something that you would do? Did you, with the talent that you see he's got now?
Oh, look, it depends on the circumstances and where you're at. And, I'm not in a position to make anyone an offer. Well, I hope I might be in tonight, but I'm not sure about in Supercars. But the fact is that I think he's probably gone on there too long.
Right.
In the Tickford environment, he needs to go and find himself somewhere else, and probably refresh himself, and revitalise his career. Now, having said that, he could go to Perth and win all the races. I mean, he's certainly capable of it from a driver point of view. Whether the team is or not is another matter, but he certainly is capable of it.
Got any thoughts on
that? Look, he's always been the best driver in that team since probably Chaz moved across to the Walkinshaw stable. But yeah, it looks like they have trouble firing consistently, and I don't think the problem's Cam. So the change from 4 to 2 cars, has it really changed anything for those guys? Doesn't look like nothing's sort of changed. So maybe it is time for him to look somewhere else. Well, I suppose his contract will be up soon and we'll find out. But
yeah. Interesting.
Where would you go?
Yeah, well, that's always exactly.
Out of the pan into the fire. If you're not going to 888, there's probably not much point in moving.
I'm not sure. But, sometimes you just need a refresh. You know that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a refresh, even if the environment is not measurably better.
It's just a mindset change and a different way of thinking of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's got great backing, which I assume goes with him, potentially.
Yeah, could do.
The monster backing. So, yeah.
Interesting. We didn't plan to talk about that. That's really quite interesting. I still need to nail something from the picture point of view, because this is an audio podcast for a lot of people. We know where you're watching. You're in pit lane most of the time if you're watching these races. You with your sitting on the couch. What does Roland Dane look like when he's turning the TV on to watch a Supercars round? Is there chips? Is there wine? What's the go?
Just a fat bastard sitting on the couch. The reality is, as I said, I was in Sepang. I was in and out of the office at the back of the pit garage in Sepang, watching it on my iPad when time allowed, or watching a replay or whatever, trying to keep up with what was going on there, as well as what was going on at Sepang. So, but it's fun, I was trying to keep up with what Shane was doing. Trying to keep up with what Supercars were doing. I was trying to keep up with what Nash was doing in Porsches at the weekend as well. So there was a lot happening.
There is a lot happening. We probably should get a scorecard to the guy who was a big player in that. And you love him so much, Tony Quinn, that you actually wrote a song for him on Speed Cafe the other day.
It's an ode.
An ode. It's not a song.
I turned a song into an ode. Yeah. But look, I wasn't at the event, so I didn't, on the Monday when I got back from Sepang on Monday, I didn't feel that I was equipped enough I hadn't spoken to enough people about it. I didn't feel equipped enough to make the sort of calls that I could a couple of days later, maybe about how the race had gone. But the outstanding thing for me was the taking a race to people who wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
And whilst we talk up the Kiwis and say that, there's a great pool of fans there to draw on, the reality is we've got that in Australia as well.
Yeah.
The Kiwis don't have a monopoly on that.
Right.
If you took Supercars to Queensland Raceway this year in August, when they're going to freeze their balls off in Simmons Plains, if you took them to Queensland Raceway in August, you'd pack the joint.
Wow.
you'd still get your Heartland at Winton, the right time of year, etc. But we're not giving it a chance at the moment.
Yeah.
Supercars haven't given those circuits a chance. So I was trying to get some messages out there whilst at the same time, just actually making the point that Quinny and his team, Josie, who runs New Zealand, Quinny doesn't run it, Josie runs it. On the floor, she runs it, and they did an incredible job of revitalizing almost the impossible, because Pookie was a great venue. It's an outstanding venue. Its location, but the bowl atmosphere there and everything, the racetrack itself. So to have ticked the boxes the way they did, I thought needed a bit of recognition. And because I'm old enough to remember the 1960s and 70s with and the song card from those days, then I thought that might be an apt way of showing the appreciation of what Tony and his team had done over there, but also remind everyone that if you go and fish where the fish are, you're more likely to catch them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get a chance to give a scorecard to TQ here shortly. We cannot, though, go to a break before acknowledging the fact that the reigning champion returned.
The Bush is back. Bring back the Bush.
Yeah. What's to go? Like 30 seconds each before we go to a break. To see him back, was he at his best?
I think he had to blow a bit of rust off. There's a part of his brain he hasn't used for probably 5 months. So I think his qualifying lap was outstanding. How he exploited that last sector and
the Sunday shootout.
The Sunday shootout lap was a couple of thousandths off pole.
Yeah, no, I watched that.
And then he was down in it. Then somehow he just lobbed it into that last sector, and whether it was by mistake or design, I don't know. He'd probably never tell us. But the run to the line's so short, and he just made so much time up on entry, and somehow got it round the corner. It was that's the Brodie Kostecki that you like to watch, and I think also the start of the race on race 2, he got a pretty shit start. And everyone started squabbling for a bit of road, and he went, "Well, I'll just go here," and got all the spots back. So that his racing brain's still there. He's just got to blow a bit of rust off, get going again. Sure, there's the team probably aren't operating to the highest ability because I think they've missed him pushing them and trying to get the most out of the team and the car. So there'll be some wins coming. For sure.
It was good. Yeah, it was great to see him back. I think it was also good for him to actually come back in at Taupo because the focus was sort of on Taupo and less on him. So it gave him an opportunity to come back in a lower key way than if he'd come back at Perth, for instance. Sort of his homeland. That was a positive for me. I was actually watching that shootout lap on Sunday live at Sepang. And I watched exactly what he did, and at the time I thought, you little bugger, you have absolutely mastered how to get through that chicane when you've got no straight afterwards to talk of. And sure enough, it came up on the timing. He'd made this, and I think the time that he made in that sector stood till the end of the shootout. He was the fastest person in the last sector. So that was outstanding for me to watch. Like Paul, I agree that it'll take him a race or two to get back up to speed. But at Perth, I expect to see him at the front.
Yeah, wow. Okay, interesting. We're going to get a little bit more insight into the behind the scenes of what happened in Taupo. We're going to find out the official pronunciation. I'm going to step out of this chair, and TQ's going to step in. And these guys are going to grill him on how it all went down on the weekend. We'll be back shortly.
At Truck Assist, we only cover one thing, specifically trucks for landscaping, trucks for cabinet making, bed trucks, smell that bread truck, trucks for chippies, ones for brickies. Oh, and really big vans. We get your business sorted with roadside assist if your battery says nope, downtime cover if this is your only hope, and motor cover if things don't go to plan.
G'day, mate.
That's insurance from the specialists. Truck Assist, it's what we do.
Welcome back to Boatworks. We've lobbed Benny out of the hot seat and we've put Tony Quinn in there. Quinny, welcome.
Good morning.
Now, are you the mighty Quinn? Have you got any gear on you to sell?
No, I've been called the Shitey Quinn before.
Yeah.
But the mighty Quinn fits well.
Or Quinn the Jock.
Quinn the Jock, yes.
Quinny, you're here to talk about Taupo. Can you tell us first of all how we should be pronouncing the location?
Taupo is what most people refer it to, but the Maori name is Taupo. So if you just think Tau and Po,
right?
Taupo, but everybody knows Taupo.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even heard the Taupo until I was at Wanaka over Easter, and somebody told me I was saying it wrong. So either way is right.
I lived in Whangarei for 8 years, but they really pronounce it Whangarei. So every time there's a WH, it's pronounced F, which is Whakatane, which is in Bay of Plenty. Gets a little bit awkward for us English-speaking people.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, we're clear on that. We can use either, Paul.
Can do.
Okay. So what did you make of the weekend, Quinny?
Everybody said, "Are you excited for the event?" And I said, "Yes, but it's." I was excited 6 months ago when we were, announced it and we're going to get going with it. But as you guys know, there's an awful lot of work goes in behind the scenes to make it all happen. But the result that we had was fantastic. I thought it's going to be a real struggle next year to make it better. We'll do it, but it's not going to be easy to make it better.
And was there anything in particular that you thought made the weekend, or?
I thought the newness of the event, the drivers were all very positive, and I thought the rain on Saturday was fantastic for the competition. For the championship, I thought it was really good. It produced 3 different podium places, 3 different people on the podium. So I thought it was really good. And Sunday race was perfect as well. And, and when you think of it, there was 67,000 people there, which is quite a sizable town, right? So if you take a town over a weekend, we had no heart attacks, we had no broken legs, we had no serious incidents on and off the track. So it was really, it's funny how a track owner thinks, the race has gone on, but at the same time, you're very aware of other things that are going on around you that can cause trouble, So I was very grateful on Sunday at 5 o'clock to say, thank God it's over.
Paul, you were there. What did you make of it?
Oh, I thought it was the best V8 supercar race I've been to in a long, long time. And I just wind back to what Quinny said about the drivers embracing it. And I think that's got a lot to do with a lot of drivers went over on a fact-finding mission. But the way that the team there at Taupo embraced the drivers and worked with them to sell the story, by the time they'd left for their laps of the track and whatever they were driving, they felt part of the event. And I just went over there with Nash to have a look at the track and get some laps. But you walked out of that track day thinking, I'm really part of something here. Yeah. And I don't think I've been to a race meeting where that's happened before. And that wasn't officially done. It was just, you just couldn't help but get swept up in the enthusiasm for the event. And it's the team there on the ground for sure.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, new events are often really good, aren't they? Remember the first time we went to Townsville? How good that was? I mean, that was a cracking event, far more so really than going to Homebush, for instance, where you didn't have the same feeling or interaction.
Yeah, and they wanted you to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And so Quinny, when I was watching it, I mean, I was texting you from Malaysia. about the number of people who were pretending to be ducks on Saturday. I couldn't believe it. How many people there were still there, but that was mighty impressive. Watching it on TV, how they were, as Paul said, they all wear their kit and everything. They're wet weather kit all the time. They're ready to take on the weather.
Yeah, but they were genuinely keen to be there. It was very, very good. And I recall a picture that was put up on television, I think it was, and the car park next to the event,
The horse track. 7,000
cars in that paddock. And I'm not joking. I don't know who parked them, but they were all in straight lines, which I thought that's pretty cool too.
But it goes back to the people. Like when you parked your car, there's a lady there with a flag waving, with a smile on your face. It's not, you park there, stupid. It's like, can you park here? You just become part of the event.
But isn't it good to be talking about a Supercars event with all these positives? So a great venue. And we'll come to that in a minute. You know what made the venue so good from a racing point of view, particularly in the dry, but also the spectacle of the racing itself, the cars, the look and feel of the cars as well on track. To me, it was very hard to find a negatives. I mean, were there enough toilets there?
Yeah, and we have a woman. And the woman that we employ to clean them is just a gem. She's there 5 days a week, but the whole team on the ground, as you appreciate, Marty has retired since. It was eating him up, and he was living and breathing. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, he was thinking about what needed to be done. He's retiring. He hasn't resigned. He's 65. He realizes that life is precious, and he needs to spend a bit more time with his family. But he is having a 6-week break, I think, or 4-week break, and then he's going to come back 3 days a week. And he is invaluable across the whole group in New Zealand. He advises and has a feel for the track and what needs to be done and what can and can't be done. So he's a very valuable part of the team over there.
One person you do not need to destroy over there is Josie.
Yeah, Josie
right? She's a machine.
She is a machine. She's a very, very hard-working human. She's a good friend. We've done a lot. We've been through a lot together. And in the beginning, it was sad to see that a lot of old white men were giving her no respect at all, and I had to defend her quite a bit. And now, of course, as you'd expect, all those people are saying, I always knew she would be good, and all that stuff. But she is. She's very, very good. And in a normal circumstance, you might feel threatened that she might be stolen by somebody else or another corporate or whatever.
But you pay her well enough.
I pay her far too much. I pay her far too. No, we're at a level where we understand each other, and she wants to make sure that the whole New Zealand business is in good shape. So
good. Now, Tony, we were talking earlier about a theory. Well, it's more than a theory, really. I think we're solidly behind it about why the racetrack produced such good racing. Paul, you expand on that with Quinny and ask him, accidental or on purpose?
I think it's accidental, but the resurfacing and leaving some new surface and some old surface just created good racing. It's something you've done at QR as well, not do the whole whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. Because if you think about it, you don't need to do all the track. You just need to do.
Is that just the Scottish bit coming out in you?
A bit of that.
Just being mean?
A bit of that.
Yeah.
But no, there were bits when I bought Taupo, it had years of neglect, to be fair, nothing done to it. And so it was in a bad state. And I had to do something for the motorbike guys and users of the circuit. When you have to go into a new business and do something to make an impression. And we were guided a lot by Marty and the motorbike guys particularly, that said what corners needed to be done. And we started off doing one corner, and then it needed to be another one, and then another one. And they wanted me to do the one at the very top. I think it's turn 10, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. And I said,
one onto the back straight.
Yeah. And I said,
you didn't.
Nah.
Yeah.
Because I've raced there, and that gets you. that's a tricky corner to get right. And I think if you watch the telecast, you can see some guys hugging the inside and some guys. The traditional line for that corner is to go towards the pine tree, what they call, just break straight towards the pine tree, V-shape it, and then come out. But I think it showed there was a few different ways of doing it.
Yeah, that's what we picked up on, and that was my feedback from talking to people afterwards. Is that's the corner you don't need to resurface because it gave you different ways of getting down that straight, that final straight to the chicane. Yeah.
No, and I think the other great thing about Taupo and QR, when you think about it, you can see the whole track, or just about the whole track. Yeah, and that makes such a difference. And depending on where you are, the cars are crisscrossing. And funny on Sunday, when it was dry, the first few laps I thought, oh shit, this is going to be a bit of a procession. The guys seemed to all be keeping up, but it wasn't long before there was clumps of people, and then there was battles within the race, which I thought was very good. We could go on and on, but my mission now is to, what do we do now? And I had discussions with the V8 group, at the weekend. And Taupo's done. That'll be fine. We'll improve it next year. We'll make it better, whatever. But what are we going to do now? And there was a lot of talk around a second round. And if you were to look at it economically, doing another round at Hampton Downs would make economic sense from a cost point of view. And I don't think you would lose too much ground at Taupo, and I think you would pick up more at Hampton Downs. But the overwhelming push was to go to Highlands. And there was Ruapuna, and there was other suggestions, but basically the government...
You don't own the other ones.
No, I admit, seriously, it would make no difference to me. Honestly, it wouldn't. I've raced at Ruapuna, and Ruapuna needs a lot of money spent on it. And why would you demand as a sport, and why would you as a government spend money on infrastructure at somewhere where there's somewhere just down the road?
Is that Canterbury Car Club, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they can do what they like and happy days, but they'd have to ask for government money. Why would you do that when there's a perfectly good circuit?
That's there
already, and it's world renowned. And so anyway, I said to them, look, Highlands is a special place, and I would like to think that you could have a special event there. Now, that's as far as it went, but basically the message is it's such a good place, we can't just go and do another sprint round there.
Paul, what's your feeling about the second
QR
event? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony, I'm going to come at it from the point of view that I think you should be going to New Zealand by sea freight to protect the long-term viability of the event.
That's definitely happening.
So by container. And when you do that, it makes it less viable for a Supercars calendar to back-to-back. That's the first thing I'd say. But the second thing I'd say is that you have to get the Australian calendar back into shape before anything else is done. And in terms of a second race, that's my opinion, is that QR, Winton, maybe even PI need to be back on the calendar.
I think Taupo proved that these permanent circuits can work. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think you need some street races. I get that. That's pretty good for the television and stuff like that. But these permanent circuits are there for a reason, and they need to be supported, and they can produce a good show. And they're also talking about coming back to Queensland Raceway I don't know how much I can say, but my words to them are, we're up for it. I've invested so much in the sport in both countries. I'm here for as long as I'm here to stay. And I want to make the sport a lot better. Or try and improve it whichever way we can. Just make it a better spectacle, a better event. I watched that NASCAR Full Speed documentary on Netflix. What a fantastic thing to watch.
Exactly.
And the thing I loved about it was that everybody was making money. The drivers were making money, the teams were making money, the tracks were making money, the NASCAR group was making money, the sponsors were happy to be there, the crowds were all there. We should, honestly, and the racing that I never really understood before, the chase and the four quarters. I thought it was fantastic. Why? We should be doing that.
Well, I think we were talking earlier about before we went to air. Paul and I were just chewing the fat over the SVG in NASCAR and how we had, I had learned. Paul knows much more about NASCAR than I had, but how I was on a learning experience of picking up what's going on there. Like the full speed thing, the series, and getting more into it, and then you look at it and think, well, what would work for us? Mm-hmm. There are elements that would work for us or not.
Well, our whole series is as long as their chase. So that's the problem you got. We don't race enough.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother ball game. But the first thing to me, going back to what we do with tracks, is to get back to QR. I was texting you at the weekend about that, and go back to Winton. Even go back to Phillip Island. Just get more racing, and I've got theories about how you do that and everything, etc. But get more racing out there, and keep the tracks viable. Yeah, we need to keep permanent circuits viable. We love the Gold Coast as a street circuit in Adelaide. And Townsville, we've got to keep these other ones going.
I think they're going, because you go out to QR during the week and there's plenty of people enjoying their cars. So
look, I think the tracks can survive. They do different things. Motorbikes, drifting is 27% of QR's business. So there's other things that people are doing. So they're not disappearing, and it depends how they're run, managed, blah blah blah. But I definitely think that everybody was, their eyes were opened to the fact that, geez, this is what this thing's built for, tracks. We should do more of it. And I think we will. I definitely think that the Taupo experience for the V8 guys was like, wow, we've forgotten how good this can be. Exactly. And maybe the secret is not to do the same thing year in, year out. Yep. Maybe miss out Phillip Island maybe miss out QR for a year or two. Maybe miss out, something. Rotation. Spin them around. And I think they'd get more support that way.
Quinny, it's been great having you come along to Boatworks today. Thank you. And I think we both have to say congratulations on the event, big time. And showing that taking the sport to the yard, as it were, to the backyard of the fans, still really works. Yeah, well done, mate. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. And it wasn't me, just to be clear, it wasn't me that did it all.
You had
a whole bunch of people
dollars on the line.
Yeah. But there was a whole bunch of people that put in a lot of effort, and then the drivers put on a good show. So well done to everybody.
And you won the trophy. Good job.
Yeah, that was. and I got drowned in the process.
I wasn't sure if you had a tear in your eye or a woody when you were up there.
When you see it on TV, I'm so short.
Well done, mate.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At Truck Assist, we only cover one thing. Specifically, trucks for landscaping, trucks for cabinet making, bed trucks. Smell that bread truck. Trucks for chippies, ones for brickies. Oh, and really big vans. We get your business sorted. With roadside assist if your battery says nope. Downtime cover if this is your only hope. And motor cover if things don't go to plan.
G'day, mate.
That's insurance from the specialists. Truck Assist. It's what we do.
Welcome back to the Polarizer podcast, powered by Speed Cafe. That was cool of TQ to come in, and I was disappointed you didn't sing the song for him, though. Ode.
I can't sing.
You can sing it, Benny.
You're the one who should be singing.
Give us a tune.
No, it's not going to happen.
One verse.
What? No.
Come on, mate.
Well, give me the lyrics and we'll give it a crack. Maybe we should record something. What do we do for a theme song? We need
I've
something.
already told you what we need for the theme song. You've got to organise it, mate.
Huh? I don't know. We need to borrow something from somewhere and reword it, just like you did. We'll take that lead. Anyway, let's go to the USA. Earlier we talked about what's in the water with New Zealand. You've got a population of 5 million, punching way above their weight when it comes to producing outstanding race car drivers. What have we got? SVG, as we go to air, he's done 2 Cup races, 10 Xfinity races, 6th at Phoenix. Do you reckon he's at his expectations? Like, are his expectations being met?
I'm not sure if they've been met. I think they have. I think he has approached it on the basis of, look, I'm learning as I go. Every new track is new. You know, that's the reality. You can't go testing there beforehand. I know from other sources that he's absolutely cracked the simulator in terms of getting on top of driving in the very sophisticated simulator they've got at the GM Tech Center in Charlotte. But that doesn't replicate drafting. And it doesn't replicate a lot of the nuances, for instance, that getting up to speed out of pit lane when you're qualifying, etc. And Talladega, for instance, last weekend, I mean, it's no practice; you just qualify. You're just on. So you're going straight out and qualifying, and he's having to cope with this completely different environment, and he's got the attitude of, "I'm here to learn." As far as ticking the boxes, I think he was disappointed at COTA. Well, he was disappointed at COTA. He was disappointed because without the late yellow, he would have won the Xfinity race. Now, Carl Larson did exactly what you do in that situation where you're nowhere near the front. There's a yellow, come in and put on 4 tyres and set yourself up, and Then he had another yellow, which enabled him to take advantage of the first one, as it were. And that's the way it works. And Shane knows that, but he was still disappointed with that. And then he had car issues in the Cup race the next day, which was a shame because he certainly would have done a lot better without having those issues.
Dude, let's put one thing to bed here, right? Average Joe looks at what we're used to, which is turning left, turning right, some sharp, some sweeping, and then we go, how hard can it be? Go on a banked oval, hold it flat. The average Joe who doesn't know how to drive a race car would look at, surely there's nothing technical about this. You've done it. What's the difference between circuit racing and oval racing?
I think the car's more important than the driver on an oval.
Right.
Because if the car's right, it's not that too difficult. Right. So, but if the car's not right, you can't carry it. The thing that really impresses me about Shane is he signed for Trackhouse, but he's not racing for Trackhouse. He's racing for Colleague Racing. So he's not in the world's best equipment in either of those 2 series. So where he's running is probably more impressive. It'd be like signing for 888 and they farming you out to Techno, you know?
Right.
That's sort of what's happened. So from my intel over there, and I got some pretty good connections over there, they did not think he'd go that good in that car.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they know it's not the best shit around, you know?
Yeah. It's I guess that whole thing of, you know, you're keeping your foot flat. And like even those, you know, the Richard Petty experience and the Dale Jarrett experience, I, with zero talent, can get in one of those cars and they will let me drive it at 180 mile an hour. So average Joe thinks, well, it can't be that hard.
That's on the super speedways.
Yes.
But then the drafting comes in and fuel saving.
But also, Paul, I mean, at the weekend at Talladega, what you didn't see unless you really knew as a punter watching it on TV is there was a 3 or 4 second variance in the lap times going on
with the fuel
on a 50 second, with the pack all responding to that. The punter watching at home, unless they're really in tune with it, they don't actually realise that's what's going on. There's more to these races than actually the average Joe just sitting in Australia switching on to watch SVG they can't understand that yet. Maybe they'll get up to speed.
Well, mate, I don't think the Americans can understand it yet too. So the chat around NASCAR is, what the hell are we doing all rolling around 2 seconds off the pace?
Yeah.
So we can have a shorter pit stop and jump someone in the pit stop. Because the difference is, before they close the pit, they rack the cars up and you come down pit lane and whoever gets off first gets the track position. So, they've got their own issues with that too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't watch a race at Bathurst with everyone rolling around 3 seconds off the pace saving fuel, would you?
Well, we watched them rolling around 3 seconds off the
with the
pace
tyres.
of the tyre last year.
Yeah.
And we know how shit that was.
Yeah. So, but getting back to SVG, for sure he's doing a better job than his equipment.
Wow, and that's a massive tip, isn't it? Like that's.
I thought the race, the Sunday race in the Cup car at Talladega was magnificent. First time in a Cup car on an oval, let alone a super speedway. And he's got L plates on. He's got the yellow stripe on the back of the car, and everyone's naturally a bit wary, around him, which they're always going to be. He'd be the same if the boot was on the other foot. Yeah. So, but I think he proved himself to be absolutely worthy of being there on merit. And he learnt the hard way when the Toyota, I think it was the Gibbs Toyota, was lobbed in there with 2 or 3 laps to go when he and Bush were on the outside of the track on the outside lane, and they lobbed a Toyota up there to wreck their race. That's all part of it. He's learning all that, and he knows it. He knows as well as anyone. He is a fantastic student of the sport.
Yeah,
he does his homework. He understands all that stuff. He might not like it at that moment, but he understands it all.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And of course, go back to Martinsville, 3rd tier, the truck series. Cam Waters just I didn't know that was coming at all. Qualified, I think, 22nd. He was running just outside of the top 10 for a lot of that race for the first 25 laps until the crash. That's pretty impressive.
It is. And then, look, the thing with that truck series over there, that's just a crash fest anyway.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch any of those truck races, it's just a lot of kids in there trying to make it to Xfinity and Cup Series, and they don't lift. And they'll turn you and they'll wreck trucks, and they'll go, where's my other truck? So probably completely different to what Cam's used to over here, where there's no contact.
Yeah.
But that truck series it's gloves off racing, and they don't care what they tear up.
Yeah. And
he's going back to another one, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being 3rd tier too, there's going to be some guys there who've got some cash that don't have the talent as well, I guess, and that's part of the crash fest deal.
That's what I was trying to say, but you just said it.
We're just sort of pulling that out. All right.
Yeah.
So we go from there. Those two have got the runs on the board. Do you have any intel on what's going on with Brodie? Like, is there going to be anything happening with him back there?
Yeah, I do have intel. I don't think he's interested in going. Well, I know he's not interested in going back to the States this year. His focus is Australia and doing the best job he can do here. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you?
No, I think it would do if I didn't know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he's head down, get on with the job this year, and then see what next year brings.
Yeah. Okay. We talked earlier about this thing that I keep asking the question: what's in the water when it comes to New Zealand? Just producing a ridiculous amount of great races. Throw the spotlight on Scott Dixon. He's just won. There was that Long Beach, wasn't it? Yeah, Long Beach.
Without cheating.
Yeah.
Okay, righto.
That we know of. But I suspect it was without cheating. Yeah.
Would you like to expand, Mr. Morris?
Oh, it's just Penske again, up to their normal tricks. So they're just renowned for it, aren't they? Through the whole history of the organisation, they're always exploiting the limits, and it seems like they've done it again with allowing the push to pass to be enabled when at the start of a race. So when the other teams weren't allowed to. So
I think the standout thing from that though is that everyone has understood what's going on. Yeah, the organisers have understood what's going on, and they said, because you own the series, you've actually got to suffer what we probably wouldn't have given to somebody else, which is disqualification. They've actually chucked the book at them because they don't normally disqualify people weeks after the event.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They
Well, they only discovered it a week after the event.
Well, no, it was a long time after the event. Because that was back in March, and it was discovered last weekend.
Yeah.
So, so I think weeks later, to me, in the United States, they don't normally do that. You know, they would have given them a massive points fine or something, but disqualification is as tough as it gets. I mean, that's what should have happened to them at Bathurst in 2019. They should have been disqualified. Yeah, in my mind, there's no question. And in a lot of people's mind in pit lane, after what they did, would DJR have done that if Penske didn't own the team? I don't think so.
Where does the spirit of hot rodding is putting things where they don't belong. It's putting an engine that doesn't belong in that car and finding an edge. That whole spirit of competition and motorsport and trying to find something that nobody else has thought of. Where does that become cheating? Because if we don't have innovation, then the sport doesn't go forward,
Depends where you race.
Right.
So if you race in America and you're not doing that, they look at you like you're weird. But in Australia, we sort of realise that there's a bit of honour in not doing that, you know. So
you think it's a cultural difference?
I think
it's more than that, Paul.
Yeah.
The fact is that most race teams in the world cannot afford to actively go outside the rule book because of losing sponsors.
Sure.
If you're the biggest sponsor for your team, you haven't got to worry about that. Right?
Okay.
So it's a different dynamic.
So you reckon Erebus are going to start cheating then?
Well, I don't think they have, right? I don't think that's the... But yeah, I mean, I understand the parallel, but I don't think they have.
No.
I don't think that's as you say, it's the mentality here to do that. Penske took advantage of the rules in what I would say the best possible way in the mid-90s when they exploited a loophole in the rules around the engine. And they went with a pushrod engine to Indianapolis. That was smart.
Yeah,
that's not cheating.
Right.
That was just a smart exploitation of the rules. You had the money, you had the resources, and good on them for doing it.
It's like the 888 Aero diff housing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It wasn't illegal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so in fact, it created a sales opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
I just love the look on your face because it's a different angle from here. I can see there was just pursed lips as you said it.
Well, that's what he's good at.
It is.
But what happened at St. Petersburg, by all accounts, is outside the rule book, well and truly. And it reminds me a little bit of the 1994 with the Benetton. When Senna was convinced that Schumacher had traction control when Senna was still alive, first couple of races in 1994, and then there was an investigation halfway through the year by the FIA, etc. And in the end, they said, "Yeah, the software is in there." And Benetton then said, "Oh, we weren't using it though," but the software was still in there. So there's a huge question mark still remains about all of that, and what went on. In the United States at St. Petersburg was definitely of a severe enough situation, bad enough situation for the owners of the category to get disqualified with two of their cars. I mean, how often does that happen?
I guess it's been put right. I guess is that what you're saying?
Well, they had to be shown to be put right. That's for sure. To me,
yeah.
It's when you own the category and then you got your own team, you got to take it. You got to take it on the chin, and hopefully stop doing that sort of thing. I mean, I remember the NASCAR guys coming over to Australia in 2018, I think, to the Bend. And a couple of the most senior guys in NASCAR and talking to several of the teams, including me at length, about some of the things that we did in Supercars. And they told me that their plan was to go to the point where they could disqualify people which they'd never done until then. They weren't disqualifying people from NASCAR races if they were discovered to be outside the rules. But then they will do if the transgression
With the new car,
is
they're
big
quite
enough.
strict on that, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what they were trying to get to. It was a sort of unknown territory for them. So anyway, it doesn't reflect well on the Penske organisation, that's for sure.
You had Joey Logano's glove.
Yeah.
So you've had it.
Yeah.
The webbing.
Yeah.
Like, it's deliberate stuff, right?
Yeah. They didn't get sewn in there accidentally, did they?
And the team's press release about it was a software thing from testing hybrid. When you read into it, it just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't stack up.
No, it doesn't stack up.
But this last thing puts Scotty Mack in a bit of an awkward situation, doesn't it?
Well, it does, because he's come out and said he didn't know it was there, but he used it. Like, a driver of his ability would know that was activated.
And he's smart.
Yeah.
Scotty's smart. And Scotty's good enough to be running at the front without that.
Yeah,
he doesn't need that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I don't know what you do, but yeah, he's got no points now. First two races, it's a
5 points or something, is it?
Yeah.
Almost nothing, which is a shame.
Absolutely,
because that's a big is eating into his season. When I think we'd all hope that he'd be running for the championship, and hopefully still will be.
Tall order coming back from that. But okay, so Scotty McLaughlin, Scott Dixon,
the
SVG.
what's in the water?
Yeah, but obviously it's not in the water. What have New Zealand done? Has there been? Is it luck that we've got this many, or has it been an intentional strategy by the motorsport people over the years?
Yeah, I mean, there's one person who passed away last week who has had a massive influence. Now, he's not the only reason, don't get me wrong, but he has had a massive influence. Sir Colin Giltrap, and what he did for the sport, and wanting very little in return for it. Sir Colin was happy if Scott Dixon, who he was Sir Colin and his entourage were a big part of getting Scott Dixon to where he is today, and all Sir Colin wanted was Scott Dixon would come and have a cup of tea with him if he was home at Christmas, right?
Yeah, wow.
And he was happy. I'm afraid to list all the drivers because you're going to leave somebody out of all the people that he's helped over the years. But there's such an incredible number of them. But Sir Colin helped so many drivers on that journey. Now, they had to help themselves as well. Somebody like Earl Bamber, who he helped, but also he used a whip sometimes to put him back on course when he needed to, when he was a nipper. So Colin could be hard as well, but he did do an incredible amount for motorsport in New Zealand, and selflessly, and also recognising the dreams of people to go overseas, whether it was Australia or further afield.
What else?
Look, for me, it sticks out pretty well because we had the New Zealand Formula Ford Championship on at the weekend, and they were pitted right opposite where the Porsches were. But the way they go about motor racing there is, it's a want to help.
Yeah, okay.
It's a want to help. So I ended up in the steward's room actually with one of the Formula Ford kids who'd been to Norwell, and he was a bit out of order. And even the way they conducted the hearing was like, oh, okay, they're just here to make sure they're doing the best for the people in the sport. So
it's a different culture, even at a steward level.
Even at a steward level, administration level, the tracks. It's probably a throwback to yesteryear from what Australia used to be like up until the 90s. But there's just a really good culture there that they want to do well. And why do they want to do well? Because they want to get the best kids and send them to Australia and beat us up. So
there's a big motive.
That's what it is,
Yeah, wow. Yeah. That's fascinating. That's something I'd really, really like to unpack a little bit more. Yeah. We don't have time for that. Guys, you've been fantastic today. Love the opinions. They have been polarising today. The reality is we struggle to get a time to actually do these sessions because we're all travelling heaps. Where are you off to next, dude?
Gold Coast.
Oh, excellent. Got a long way there.
Around for a few days.
Yeah, oh, that's nice. That's a novelty.
Yeah.
We will get a chance to have a chat. I think it'd be a good idea for us to have a chat, particularly in the lead up to Perth. That would be really important. Maybe take some things from what we learned in New Zealand and maybe what we can practice over in Perth. RD, are you still in Australia in the next few weeks?
In 10 days or so, I'm going to go to Buriram, which is in Thailand, sort of 5-6 hours drive northeast of Bangkok for the next round of the Australian.
Visit the dentist?
Yeah. Of the,
He goes there to
the
get
Asian,
his teeth done.
Asian, yeah, I do at the same time. Asian GT Championship up there.
Yep.
So I'll go up there for that, and for 4 or 5 days, and then be around in the lead up to Perth, and hopefully we can unpack Perth straight after it as well. And I'm looking forward to that event. To be honest, it's such a shame there are such big gaps at the moment. So anyway, there are. So we'll get to Perth. Yeah,
that's a topic on its own. A massive thanks to you to Garage 25, Tony Longhurst's personal collection. Come here for a coffee. It's over in the Boatworks precinct in Coomera, on the Gold Coast, not too far from Dreamworld. Benny Bish, your host. Big thank you to Paul Morris, Roland Dane. Polarizer podcast will be back very, very soon. No idea when, but keep your eyes on Speed Cafe to find out.